Welcome to number 5 of the Main Street Exchange. There it is.
It's good. It's good.
And today we're really talking about nuts and bolts of sales and networking and actually closing a sale.
Yeah.
And last week we had Chamber here talking about the benefits of networking and all that good stuff. But Micah here is really our sales lead here at Zia. And so we thought it would be really beneficial for us to talk through, what does that look like? Okay, you can do all this grassroots organic stuff, which is important. We're not going to devalue anything that we said. But as every small business owner knows, sales cures all ills. And, it's just one of those things where how can we get all that grassroots work to actually convert and help people? So we're really going to talk through what is that interaction between organic grassroots level kind of networking and closing. And how do those intersect and how do those meet and how does a small business take this conversation and maybe put some things into action, some best practices for them. And so I think, first things first, I'm really good at the people game. I'm really good.
Yeah.
I think what we've learned at Zia, sometimes maybe I'm too good at it to where I, start giving away things,
giving away the services. Yes.
Want a website? How much, Stephen? How about I pay you to let us do a website for you? And so how do we've had to actually, in all honesty, untie some of those things even for us here.
Yeah.
And so there's probably, those folks listening in going, how can I increase my sales? How can I work on some of these things where I'm not just the nice guy, I'm also a guy that can bring revenue into my business. And so
absolutely.
So let's kind of just take some best practices here. When I am bringing in, let's say, hey, Mike, I met this I met a doctor at this networking event, schmoozed the conversation a little bit, wanted, to learn more, maybe even gave out some freebies during the conversation, but they're interested. We exchanged business cards.
Yeah.
And I go, hey, Micah, here's a hot lead, which we do often.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a hot lead.
Yeah.
What do you do with that? What's next? What's next steps?
What's the next step?
Yeah.
Well, here's where you have to have some of that fearlessness when it comes to approaching people, connecting with people, and offering your services to them. So number one, I reach out.
Yeah.
Just basic. Start by trying to connect with them, and I'm a firm believer
phone call, text,
face to face. But I start with a phone call or text. Typically, usually a phone call. Don't leave a message if I don't have to.
Yeah.
I'd rather phone call and text right afterwards. And that's just because I want to make a connection. And voicemail often is not a way to connect. It's a way, and oftentimes people will feel like it's a chore to listen to their voicemail, so I'm not going to give them a chore. And two, is
it okay in that process to be thinking as the receiver?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I mean, I when and I'm not the best at sales, I'm trying to get better, but I think one of those things that I think about is, okay, as the owner, I get sales calls all the time, right?
Yeah.
And since I understand the value of them doing their best to make money for whatever, I usually will give them time, right? Yeah. I do that 75% of the time. I'm going to hear them out, and I'm going to try and give them a chance to make their pitch.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people
which
are like that.
Which is pretty nice. Yeah.
And
so it goes back to that charitable guy you are.
I know. What do they say? It's like, who's the best people to sell to? Marketing and salespeople.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a sucker for it. But at the end of the day, too, I value their time, and I want them to be able. Maybe it is something I need.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I do know if they're leaving a voicemail, it's probably, I don't have to call them back.
Right.
I mean, it's almost like this cold,
Right.
What is a voicemail really going to do for me here?
Yes.
And so I would probably concur with that. If I'm being sold to, I need a commitment of a connection in the least.
Yeah. Commitment of connection, offer something of value would be one of the other things I would say is kind of a nice thing to have at your beck and call, if you have something that you can entice them with a value. So, sometimes for us, that would be, we'll sit down and consult with you for an hour about what your current marketing strategies are. And that's a free consulting session. So, several $100 value for them to come and sit with us and talk with us through that. If you can have something of value. But, to be honest with you, there's you want to connect, and you got to want to connect, and you have to be willing to follow up until you connect. The follow-up game I play. Sometimes, no joke, it's a year long, a follow-up game or more. You can't be afraid to think that, oh, they didn't get back with me this time. That's not my mentality toward it. My mentality toward it is they are busy and they have no reason to get back to me, but I have a reason to get back with them.
Right.
Right. And so why am I not knocking on their door is as not in a obtrusive way, right? I give time between every connection, but I'm not afraid to give them a call or stop in or, chat with them about it. If they ever showed any kind of interest, I'm going to even have a little more of that, and part of that's having a great product too, obviously I believe in what we do and I believe in that product, the services we provide. And so I know that there's a value to that service. And so if I see somebody and I know genuinely in my heart that they could benefit from that service, why would I keep something that is beneficial to another human being, right? In an endeavor that they're working on. Why would I keep that from them?
Right. So there's some presuppositional factors.
Yeah.
And one of those is believing in the product.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I think, you're talking about, plumbing or HVAC or electricity, electricians. Just general electricity. Sorry.
Electricity.
When you think about electricity or food.
Isaac Newton, just
apples. Whatever. Sorry.
Isaac Newton's not even electricity. He's
gravity, right?
Totally messed that up. Sorry.
So there. I think when talking through something that you're selling, right? I mean, if someone's coming to my door wanting to sell a mini split and get it installed, right? I want to know that they're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
That they have the installation ability, because what do I want my house to burn down? And that, the person believes in the product that they're selling and the installation quality. If they don't have those, I'm going to be like, heck, he doesn't want it. Yeah. He doesn't want it for himself, nor does he want it for me. What, he's just clearly, whatever, you know what I mean? And so there is a reality factor into where, no, you actually do believe in the product. Yeah, like absolutely. You're not tricking yourself. You're not biased in the sense of cognitive dissonance to where you just can't unbelieve it. What we do is actually helping people get from moderately successful to really successful. Like we're bridging gaps.
That is our goal,
of real revenue.
Yes.
For businesses to grow. We bring a real value that they may not have unless we come to the table. And what I'm learning with what we do here at Zia is the fact that we have our services and products managed.
Yes.
Like people are always like, well, why can't I just go to GoDaddy and get like a $5 a month thing? I'm like,
you can.
You
it's going to be a very different product.
I can too, but there's not an expert on the other side.
Yeah.
And just attempt customer service.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's gnarly. But what we provide is truly hand-holding the process of understanding how your marketing, advertising grow your business. Most people, it's a mystery.
Yeah.
It's a complete mystery to them.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, we've had growth curves of our own, and there's been times that I haven't sold certain parts of our product line that I sell now with a lot of confidence because we had to grow a little bit in those areas.
Right.
either growing in our efficiency so that we could actually meet it in a good time demand, or grow in our expertise so that we could meet it in
the competency side.
Yeah, the competency side. And that's part of growing, right? Is having those honest conversations with ourselves about the product line and how we provide that for our customers.
Right. Like for us,
to be at that level.
For client X, where we, delivered a really strong campaign. It happened to be a census, gave us this great municipality background, government background,
absolutely
executed. So we didn't just say, hey, believe in us.
Right.
We're going to do the work. We're going to do the hard work of marketing, advertising, planning, campaign execution, consulting,
absolutely,
and then hard deliverables, so that now that's in our portfolio, in our resume per se, when we're, and so then client,
Y comes along or Z comes along. Yeah.
And goes, in fact, this other client that we closed said, hey, I need to know that at what scale were you able to deliver your lips? And we were like, glad you asked. And so you do need to build in competency. You need to, and skill, I think, is different than competency, because competency says, can you handle the scale to deliver the skill?
Yes.
And you have to come when you're selling, whether it's, whatever you're selling, insurance or whatever, you need to come with that level of confidence, competency, history, and know what you're not good at too.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
If you're selling a mini split system, don't go try and sell, something you're not quite knowledgeable yet. Because what's one of those things is when the client's like, but what about this thing or that?
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I'll get back to you about that.
Yeah.
Or whatever. You don't want to ever bloviate on things.
Except you do. Yeah. And the caveat to that, I would say, is you want it to be reachable, because there's nothing wrong with you stretching for a client's needs. What's not good is if you're like, a client needs something that's 10 steps away from where we are right now, and you really can't bridge that gap of expertise, then probably shouldn't be bidding for something that's 10 steps away from where you are now.
Yep.
But something that's 1 or 2 or 3 steps away, that's an educational gap that you can actually meet.
Sure.
And it's a growth curve that you should be pressing into, right? Like, most likely.
Sure. And really what I mean by that is like really foundationally, the biblical concept of don't say something you actually don't know in order to get ahead.
That's right.
But there's a difference between an incremental educational difference of like, oh, this mini split can definitely do 1 room. If you want to do 2 rooms, there's a combo package that I just learned about the other day, but I don't know all the technical details, so let me get that for you. Right. But I do know it's about 50% more to add a second system in the house or whatever.
Right.
And so that's an incremental bid upsell that you can do, but you're honest.
Yep.
You're getting them to where they need to be.
Yes.
Rather than, making something up out of thin air just to close a sale and then find out you actually can't fulfill it because you didn't tell the complete truth.
Stay genuine. Right. Stay truthful. I mean, there is nothing. I mean, as a salesman, your reputation means more than anything. I mean, literally, the thing you have to protect the most is your reputation.
Right.
And so,
I mean, think of door-to-door sales, right?
Oh, yeah.
Me and my brother did that for a time, but it's almost the bare bones of sales.
It is.
Because there's 2 kind of referrals you can get. One is avoid the people coming down the street. They hit my street. They're coming for you, right? There's those. And then there's, hey, you wouldn't believe who we just met.
Right.
They just gave us, 15% off a new roof. I know you guys have been looking for it. The guys are real deal. They have a spot here in town. They're not just fly by night. Like, whoa, that's a different type of sales approach, right? Yeah. Someone actually went there and gained new neighbors.
Yeah.
Not enemies.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd say, some people have broken some of that stuff down, and you've heard it many times. Some people call it a trust triangle and stuff like that, is know, like, trust, and it's that basis of if someone doesn't know you, then you have to help them know you a little bit. Right. And if someone, doesn't like you, they're not going to buy from you, or they're not going to trust you either, So there's got to be a likability factor. And that doesn't mean you try to be liked. I don't think that's, but you know how to be likable, right? I don't come into a conversation with a potential client and start talking about politics or religion. Those are tendencies to be divisive issues. I just don't do it. And it's not that I don't care about those things, because I do. And I probably have pretty strong opinions in many, many cases toward that stuff. But it's just not a conversation I need to have when I'm getting to know somebody and starting to have.
And I'm the same way. And I would say, I would push back against those that would say, "Oh, you're compromising your values," into "I'm just being a person."
Yeah.
It's sort of like, if you're at Thanksgiving, and you invite some friends that no one knows,
right?
There's certain things to make them feel welcome that you're just not going to explode on them with. It's just being a person. It's being a sensible person, polite, respectful. Being and yet, to enter that conversation, right? That's a good segue into, okay, I'm doing kind of a warm call, because we're talking about the interchange between warm lead and entering a sales thing. We didn't really talk about cold calling. That'll be a whole nother episode. But warm leads is really what we're talking about. And, countless customers that we're consulting all the time, that want to call us in, that maybe they've never heard of us before, but all they know is that they're getting tons of leads that they're not closing, and they need help navigating those things. What are some of those pinpoint things that our listeners can go, "Oh, that's a problem in our organization," and what are some maybe even quick fixes they can do to mitigate that closing ratio, or even getting a little hotter? Maybe not a full close, but get them a little hotter down the road.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many things that I would say with this, but I mean, one of your main ones is no typical objections. People in your industry are going to have certain objections toward buying. Oftentimes people will blame price on everything. And that's kind of like, as you are a sound engineer, that's kind of like everybody blaming volume for everything.
Yeah.
That's not the case. Oftentimes it's just not tuned correctly.
Yep.
And
exactly.
You can tune it, and all of a sudden nobody cares about the volume, and you never change the volume switch.
Yep.
It's the same in sales. They oftentimes will blame price as, "I'm not closing sales because our price is not right." But that's not a value conversation. And so when you become a person about the price, or you're allowing the conversation to steer to just price, then you're not selling the value of what you have to offer. And the conversation should always be about value. Because that's where a person really needs to make the decision.
Now, a lot of people listening, I know many years ago when I heard the word value, I didn't know what people meant.
Yeah.
So could you take a moment to explain what those caveats and angles and
absolutely. So I mean,
value?
Your value conversation is, what benefit do they get from it? What return does their company get from it? What things, maybe we were even talking about this earlier, what opportunities are they missing because of the standard not being high enough, right? The opportunity of their brand not being strong enough. Those things are value conversations, right? Because who cares? Anyone would make the decision. If I told you our marketing is $2 million a month, but I guarantee you'll make $100 million a month, and you knew that was going to happen. It happened with all my other clients. Does the $2 million a month even matter? Right? So,
because you're solving so many other problems. And I think that's what I found later, that value in my brain, what clicked in my head is solving unknown problems.
Right.
So like, for instance, if you're selling, you're selling a window, to get installed, and you're a window salesman, and, your name might be different. It might be, window filtration specialist or something, but you're a sales guy, right?
Yeah.
And you run off at least partially by commissions, and you're wanting to close a sale, and you believe in your product, and you're going in there selling the price probably isn't best head on, because you're trying to actually say all of those unknown costs that are hitting the customer. Maybe it's their monthly energy costs that you're going to save them.
Yeah.
Maybe it's maybe it's a child's room, and the way the sun hits that window brings that much extra heat in the room that they didn't want.
There you go.
But your special window product is going to actually alleviate the emotional frustration from the kid from being,
you're hitting the nail on the head.
Right. And so now now the client is going, oh yeah, those things matter to me, and it's not so much about
you're solving a problem instead of offering a product for a price. Offering a product for a price doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. It's just not as important. If you're solving a problem, then there's a value attached to that. And, my grandpa used to always say, well, something is worth what someone is willing to pay for it. So when you're in that environment, the idea is, are you willing to pay for the value that I can bring you?
Right. It's trusting the market.
Right.
It's essentially the bare bones of capitalism.
Right.
If someone is willing to pay for it, that's what the market will bear.
Yeah. And then, just being confident that you can bring that solution to them. And if you can, then go out and offer it, mm-hmm. and that's what I'd say too. Don't be afraid to put your proposal on the table. A lot of times I feel like people in sales, they'll get a person to a point where they know, like, and trust them. They've gone through that world, and now they're afraid to put their proposal on the table. And I can still experience that, especially when we're pushing into new boundaries. When I'm starting to look at it and go, well, man, this is going to stretch our team. I can kind of be a little hesitant toward that. But what I've learned is I just put it out there. Put it out there, and then I'm not afraid to discuss it later on. If they don't bite immediately at it, I'll go talk to them and I'll say, yeah, what kind of thoughts or questions did you have? What concerns did you have? And talking through that, and maybe I can retailer something. Maybe we can cut the price a little bit to help them get involved. Maybe we can offer some other service in addition to help close the sale.
Now, and that I think is an important factor when it comes to salespeople that have a flexible cost structure.
Right.
Now, you would only know that. Yeah. You're not going to tell your customer that. But to play those cards really wisely, and understand there is a tension there.
Yes. You don't want to devalue your product.
No.
Because your product is valuable.
You don't want to do that every time, and you don't want to, but it is part of your mix, your sales mix.
Yeah.
And those cards aren't pulled often, but it's okay to pull those cards every now and then.
Sometimes you look at the long term, right? The relationship, you might say the relationship is worth it. So, I can pay a guy or two on the team a couple hours of labor and give something extra to them. And at the end of the day, I gain a client that's a long-term client because they give me the opportunity then to serve them and serve them well. Yeah. So it's marketing cost. It's a loss leader. It's you have little things in your budget so that you can do that kind of stuff because a new client is worth it. A new relationship is worth it. So even if you don't have a flexible product budget, you need to find things like that can help you tilt the sale in your favor, because sometimes people just need that extra little nudge. And it doesn't take that much. I mean, it can be a $50 gift card, and all of a sudden it's like your product is okay and the timing will work now. But before that, the timing wasn't good. The price was too high or whatever, and people just sometimes need a little nudge, and that's okay to have those at your disposal.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was a helpful conversation. And if you have more questions or anything, you can always hop on our website, ziamediagroup.com. And I thought I would just start plugging us like that. And it feels really good.
That's awesome. I love it.
But so that's it for today. And we'll catch y'all later.
Thanks for joining us.